see Professor Scott, Professor Mohamed, a very distinguished panel. And let me say at this point, I've participated and listened to panels all over the world in the last several years, and this is as good as it gets. You've done an extraordinary job of assembling a tremendous diverse panel with great expertise. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be able to speak to you this evening and be here in Guyana at this extraordinary time. Part of my role in being the final speaker is to do some summarizing, and I will attempt to do that, although I am somewhat intimidated by the challenge of attempting to summarize what all those people have said. But before I do that, I would like to say just a little bit more from a contextual standpoint. Beginning with sort of the larger sense of change that lies ahead of us in the energy sector. I first became involved in energy as a PhD student in the 1970s, where I studied artificial photosynthesis. I went on to work for British Petroleum for 34 years, and then to Arizona State University to work on energy for 10 years. And I've never seen a time in that entire period where the industry has been under so much pressure to change, and when it was so exciting to be in this industry. And that change is being driven by a multitude of factors. You've heard about technology and the pace of change in technology. And it is extraordinary, without doubt. We heard a lot about renewable energy technology, but I would also point out that hydraulic fracturing has completely transformed the natural gas industry in the United States and may yet in the rest of the world. New entrants and new expectations in the United States, and even would be increasingly true here. If you want to attract a big tech company to come to your state, you better be able to provide them with clean energy. You just simply have to be able to do that. Climate change is, in fact, an extraordinary driver of change. And here, I think it's very important that we not allow ourselves to be confused by some of the rhetoric that you hear, particularly coming out of the United States. There is no doubt about climate change. There has been no doubt about climate change since the 1980s. None. And the reason I say that is because I was part of one of the biggest companies in the energy sector in the world. We were doing this kind of research. We knew exactly what was going on. In 1997, the chief executive officer of BP at the time, John Brown, now Lord John Brown, went to Stanford University and said, we've got to do something about climate change. You can look that up on the web, you can read that speech. We're going to have to push the energy system to net zero emissions, not 100% renewable, net zero emissions as fast as we can. And that's simply, we're going to have to do that. That will not be enough. We are going to overshoot carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We will be required to take carbon dioxide back out of the atmosphere. That means there's going to be a price on carbon. And that price is going to be whatever it takes to take the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Hopefully that'll be less than $100 a ton, but it isn't today. So carbon taxes are coming, and anybody that's thinking and planning for energy needs to take that into account. Now, turning specifically to Guyana, I think this adequately summarizes an extraordinary opportunity here for the country. First, to take advantage of the rich natural resources that you have. Dr. Bino, I think, was absolutely right in the comments that he was making. There is an extraordinary opportunity to use the resources that you have to stimulate a broader growth in the economy, and the economy of Guyana must grow. The economy of the world must grow. We've got 2.5 billion people coming between now and the middle of the century. The economy of the world must grow. This is an opportunity for Guyana to use these resources to begin to lay out what its green development strategy and the execution of the green development strategy will look like. Energy, again, as Dr. Verlyn pointed out, is not the point. Energy is the lifeblood of any economy, no matter how big or how small it is. But you don't produce energy for its own sake, you produce it for what it can do. In order for an economy to thrive, one of the first things it has to be able to do is be affordable. It has to be reliable, not just to a few, but to everybody. And it has to be affordable, reliable, and accessible. It has to be reliable. Now, here's a number of our speakers made really important points about reliability of energy supplies, and particularly reliability of the grid. Because if it's not reliable, manufacturing in particular is just simply not going to happen. You're just simply not going to happen without reliable supplies. And as you think about transitioning to the energy system of the future of Guyana, reliability, as has been pointed out, has to be at the top of the list. And it is possible to build systems, as you well know, that aren't reliable. A number of the speakers mentioned the challenges associated with renewable energy, particularly the idea of dispatchability and the idea of being able to supply energy at all times of the day and night. Renewable systems don't do that very well. They need storage. Storage can be batteries, but batteries are in fact expensive. They will come down a lot, but they're expensive. It's not the only source of storage. You can also do things like pump storage. You have hydraulic systems that allow for that. But nonetheless, you have to take into account how that's going to happen. In Arizona, one of the things that we're looking at is hydrogen production. We're doing that because we don't think batteries are going to get good enough for long-term storage. Whereas storing hydrogen and frankly making hydrocarbons from carbon dioxide might be the way to go, especially if you've got lots of renewable energy potential. So you need to be thinking about that. Now, one of the things that I'm sure by now the audience is confused about is pricing. Because you heard a lot about pricing associated with renewable energy. We heard how low cost solar energy has become. But at the same time, we've heard about the expense associated with trying to make renewable energy the backbone of your system. And there's an important aspect of energy that this brings out, particularly for electricity. And that is, you can't really use one number to talk about the affordability of electricity. Because it depends on the time of day that it arrives, and it depends on the time of year that it arrives. Last year, California paid Arizona $80 million to take electricity from them. They paid us $80 million to take electricity from them. If you get the CalISO app, you will see in the day-ahead market, every day, virtually every day, the price in Phoenix, Arizona, for the day ahead at noon is 0 or less. But that same electron at 4 o'clock in the afternoon is worth about 35 cents a kilowatt hour. So what is the price of electricity? Well, it depends on when it's there. And that's why you're hearing different numbers. And that's why these things can be confusing. You have to look at this as a system. Energy and the electricity grid is a system. You have to look at that way. Now, the good news is your people, from the comments that they're making, know that. And they're taking that into account in some of the things that they've said. I think some of the comments that Professor Reichenbach made really need to be reinforced. And that is that we're talking about an evolution of a very complex system here. And there's a broad range of things that need to be done in preparation and in the process of doing that, in making this transition come true. Capacity building is hugely important. And we heard a bit of that also from Professor Klass. She was talking about looking back at the performance of these solar systems. Often when solar systems are not performing well, particularly in the countryside and remote areas, if you go out and look at what's happening, it's because there wasn't the capacity to maintain or to operate them properly. That's something that has to be taken into account. And here's where I think this new forum that Dr. Mohamed Martin is putting together is critically important. This is something UG can provide a great service to the country, being able to provide that kind of capacity building. The idea of transparency is hugely important. We struggle with that in our state. Decisions get made, people want to know how did that happen? And it completely undercuts the confidence that people have. Even when the plan is good, it undercuts the confidence that people have. Transparency in how these decisions get made and involving the public. It's really exciting to me to see an audience of this size here this evening. We wouldn't get this in Phoenix, and we're 5 times the size of it. It's tremendous that there are so many of you interested in coming and listening to people talk about energy. It's really quite remarkable. I'd like to summarize or end these comments by saying that this is in fact a moment for Guyana to take advantage of the richness of the options that you have. And several of the speakers you heard talk about diversity of supply. That's absolutely correct. You have a real richness here that you can draw on. And you have, with the oil revenues starting up very shortly, you're going to have the opportunity to exploit this richness and put together an energy system that is going to be able to propel the green state development and is going to be able to propel the kind of economy and the kind of society that I know you all want to build. So let me just end by saying then that it is a real pleasure for me to be able to speak to you this evening. It is frankly an honor for I and my colleagues to be invited to participate in this journey with you. It's exciting, and we really look forward to being able to do our bit to make this a successful journey for you.